It was called the Red Light District. In Honolulu, Hawaii of 1934, this area housed brothels, opium dens, and gambling halls, all of them illegal, but still well known both by the island residents that tried to ignore them and the many sailors who frequented them.
Also scattered throughout this illicit and seedy district were many, many bars. These too were very familiar to the sailors. For some, it was their second home when making port in Honolulu. They were sometimes dangerous places, and often where most of those illegal activities, like gambling and prostitution, actually took place.
In its heyday, the Red Light District housed dozens of these bars, but today only one of those remain, Smith's Union Bar.
It's the oldest. When I got it three and a half years ago, and it was April 13, I got it. So it's been just about three and a half years, and at that point it was the oldest bar on the island, and now as in a year ago it's now the oldest bar in all of Hawaii. Originally, even before it was Smith's Union Bar, which again opened in 1934, prior to that it was called the Seaman's Bar.
Okay.
And I have no idea why they changed it, but they changed it back to Smith's Union Bar, and that comes from the Smiths comes from the next block down is Smith Street.
Okay.
And with it being the Union Bar, they used to come in way back. They'd come in, it was like a union bar. They'd come in with their union checks, and a lot of times they would just hand their union check over, and then they would just more or less run a tab off that. And when their check ran out, their beers ran out too.
In appearance, Smith's was probably just like the other places in the area. It was rowdy, bawdy, and maybe even a little dangerous. But there was one thing that made this place stand apart from the others.
You see, the crews of the nearby U.S. Navy fleet each had a favorite hangout, and so in each bar you'd find sailors from different ships. The USS Oklahoma would spend time at one bar, while the crew from the USS Utah would be at another. But for the crew of the fated USS Arizona, it was Smith's Union Bar.
Back before World War II started, all the different Navy ships all had kind of got assigned different areas for shore duty, and the USS Arizona, this was the bar they came to. So this was actually their bar. They actually did shore duty, and they claimed it as their own.
And one sailor from the USS Arizona still goes there every year to remember his friends who perished aboard the ship.
Lauren Bruner was a fire controlman of the USS Arizona and was a frequent of Smith's. It was here, after hours when the sun was down, that you'd find him and his friends drinking nickel beer. Then, on the morning of December 7th, the Japanese attacked. Lauren survived, barely, receiving burns to 70% of his body and spending months in a hospital recovering.
This is where he was. That was his battle station right when the bomb dropped.
As one of the few survivors, and the second to the last man to leave the USS Arizona, Lauren tries to come back here on the anniversary of the Pearl Harbor attack. In fact, if you come by on December 4th, there's a good chance you'll find him sitting at his favorite table. Buy him a beer and tell him thank you.
And you know, if you do get a chance to talk to him, one thing he might tell you is that his favorite bar really hasn't changed that much since he was drinking here as a 21-year-old. As is probably fitting, it's now owned by a vet, Dwight Lockwood, and he's promised not to change a single thing.
Just like it was in 1934, Smith's is still small, it's still full of personality, and there still isn't much modesty when using the bathroom. But it's also history. And, as Hawaii's only bar that's been around longer than Hawaii's actually been a state, this is the place to go for a different historical perspective. A perspective about the state itself, about what it used to be like over 8 decades ago, and a perspective about the day that still lives in infamy. Be sure and make Smith's Union Bar your stop when you visit Hawaii.